Some mornings don't come crashing in with chaos. They creep in quietly, tugging at your gut like a whisper that something's changed. That's exactly how it felt when I woke up that Saturday. Soft sunlight filtered through the half-open blinds, painting thin golden lines across the hardwood floor. It was just past 6, but I didn't need to check the clock. My body still moved on that same internal rhythm it picked up during my time in the military. No alarms, no reason. Just awake. I sat on the edge of the bed, elbows planted on my knees, the weight of something unspoken hanging heavy on my shoulders. I rubbed my face with both hands and exhaled slowly, grounding myself like I used to before stepping into something uncertain. The room was still, too still. I could hear the fridge humming downstairs and the occasional creak of the house settling. But that was it. No conversation, no shared laughter. Not anymore. Behind me, the other side of the bed was untouched. My wife, Rachel, hadn't crawled in until well after midnight. Again. I didn't ask where she'd been. Not that night, not the one before. Instead, I moved through the motions like muscle memory, brushed my teeth, made the bed with that same neat precision the army trained into me, then pulled on a worn gray t-shirt and the jeans I always reached for when I didn't want to think. I made my way downstairs. The steps creaked under my weight, but I walked like I always did, calm, steady, like nothing was wrong even though everything felt off. The kitchen looked untouched. Too clean. Too sterile. Rachel used to cook with me on Saturdays. Fluffy pancakes, overly salty scrambled eggs, coffee so strong it could peel paint. We'd joke, steal kisses while stirring batter, barely finish breakfast before the day pulled us in opposite directions. But now, the only thing left was the faint smell of lemon-scented cleaner and emptiness. I filled the kettle, grabbed a pan from the lower cabinet, and started cracking eggs. Bacon followed. The scent filled the room, warm and familiar in a way that felt like a punch to the chest. I made 2 plates, more out of habit than hope, and sat at the table with my fork in one hand and the silence in the other. Upstairs, the water started running. Rachel was awake. I didn't look up when I heard her footsteps coming down. A moment later, she walked into the kitchen. She was wrapped in a pale robe, pulled too tightly at the waist like she was holding herself together. Her damp hair was twisted into one of those effortless-looking messy buns. That scent, her shampoo, floated into the room, jasmine and something floral I still couldn't name, but I knew it anywhere. "Morning," she said without really looking at me. "Morning," I replied, steady, keeping my eyes on my plate. She moved toward the cabinet, grabbed a mug, and poured herself coffee. 2 spoons of sugar, splash of almond milk, exactly like always. She sat across from me and picked at her eggs without really eating them. We sat in silence for a while. Eventually, I asked, "How was work yesterday?" She blinked, like the question caught her off guard. "Busy," she said. "Had a late meeting. Stayed to help finish some reports." I gave a slow nod. "You didn't mention that last night." "I didn't want to wake you," she answered quickly. I lowered my mug. I wasn't asleep. For a second, our eyes met. Then she looked away. Something cold settled between us. Not shouting, not anger, just a quiet pressure like thin glass starting to crack. She stood up too fast, grabbing her barely touched plate. "I need to run a few errands later," she said. "We're out of detergent." I watched her rinse the plate like she could scrub away whatever she didn't want to say. "I can go get it," I offered. "No," she said softly, too sweet. "I'll go." That tone, syrupy and fake, like fruit that's gone bad inside but still looks perfect on the outside. She left the room a moment later, her footsteps fading upstairs. I didn't follow. I just sat there, staring at the empty seat she'd left behind. Her plate was in the sink, yolk drying around the edges like a reminder no one wanted. I got up eventually, rinsed it off, and slid it into the dishwasher. That's when I saw the notepad by the fridge. Her handwriting, scribbled and rushed. Laundry detergent. Almond milk. Toothpaste. More wine. Red, not white. That last line stuck with me. Something about it didn't sit right. There was this strange itch at the back of my brain, a feeling I couldn't shake off. Not yet. But it was there. I glanced out toward the garage, just for a second. Not yet. Saturday had barely started. And the silence. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was holding something back. By mid-morning, the sky had turned a washed-out gray, like the day couldn't decide what it wanted to be. I stood in the driveway, keys in hand, just staring at the SUV. A black Toyota Highlander, practical, reliable, nothing flashy. It was Rachel's car mostly, but we shared it whenever we needed. She always said it felt safer on long drives. That day, I told myself I'd take it to pick up a set of tools I'd ordered across town. Good gas mileage, new brakes, logical reasons. But logic had nothing to do with the weight in my chest. As I unlocked the door and slid into the driver's seat, a familiar scent hit me, her perfume. Subtle, expensive, cool. The kind that tries to smell effortless but never really is. The seat was adjusted for her, too close to the wheel. The mirrors were off too. I fixed them without thinking, like wiping fingerprints off a surface you don't want anyone to see. I turned the key, and the radio kicked on. Some upbeat pop song I didn't recognize. Definitely not mine. I switched it off. That's when I noticed it. Something small, something ordinary, and completely wrong. In the rearview mirror, I saw the clutter in the back. A blanket, messily folded. A small pillow shoved next to it. I frowned. We didn't have kids. We hadn't been camping or on a road trip. I hadn't packed anything. So what the hell was that? Curiosity or maybe instinct kicked in. I stepped out, walked around to the back, and opened the liftgate. The air inside the trunk felt warm and stale, like someone had just been there. My fingers tugged the blanket aside, and a plastic grocery bag rustled beneath it. Inside, I found an empty coffee cup, Rachel's kind, with almond milk and sugar. Lipstick smudged the rim. It rolled and bumped against the wheel well like it was waiting to be seen. And then, I saw it. At first, my brain didn't register what I was looking at. Just some crumpled plastic trash. But then my eyes adjusted. A condom wrapper. And next to it, used. I froze. Completely still. My breath got caught in my throat like it didn't know whether to come out or stay in. The world around me just dimmed. No wind. No birds. No cars passing on the street. Nothing. I stared at it. That used condom sitting in the back of our car. Like it had been tossed aside after whatever happened back there. And then, something glinted from inside it. Just barely. Something small. Metallic. I leaned in slowly, like approaching something wild, something that might lash out. I grabbed an old rag from the back seat, one I used for greasy tools, and, using it like a glove, carefully lifted it. Inside that cloudy latex was a ring. Not just any ring. My ring. My wedding band. I recognized it instantly, the gold band, worn smooth from years on my finger. And inside, that tiny engraving I'd picked out myself. September 9th, 2017. Our wedding date. I'd seen it on Rachel's hand just the day before. While we had coffee. While she smiled and talked about errands and laundry detergent. Now here it was. Inside this. The nausea didn't hit me like a punch. It came slow, like acid creeping outward from the pit of my stomach. No anger. Not yet. Just this cold, hollow disbelief that sank into my bones. I wrapped the whole thing, condom, wrapper, and ring, inside the rag and slipped it into an empty plastic container I found in the trunk. Snapped the lid shut. My hands moved without me, like a machine. Military calm. Keep it clean. Keep it quiet. I stood there a while, just staring at that container in my hand. Like it was some kind of artifact dug up from a battlefield. Something that didn't belong in this world but absolutely did. Part of me wanted to lie to myself. Maybe it was old. Maybe someone broke into the car. Maybe there was a reason. But deep down, I wasn't stupid. I knew. There was no maybe. There was only this. I closed the trunk, turned, and walked into the garage. Found a shelf behind the old paint cans and stuck the container there. Out of sight. For now. Then I just stood there. Arms crossed. Breathing slow. Not panicking. Not yelling. Just breathing. The betrayal wasn't loud. It wasn't fire or screaming. It was quiet. Surgical. The kind of betrayal you don't see coming until it's already done, and you realize the wound's been there for a while. You were just too numb to feel it. Her ring hadn't slipped off. It wasn't lost. She'd taken it off. Chosen to take it off. And she'd left it there, in that exact place, in that exact way. On purpose. I closed my eyes, and the image burned behind my lids. I wasn't ready to confront it yet. Not fully. But something had changed. Saturday didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt like the first drumbeat of something loud. By the time evening rolled around, the sky had dimmed into that heavy kind of gray that feels more like a curtain than clouds. From the outside, our house probably looked peaceful. Warm light glowing through the kitchen window, a soft amber hue washing across the front porch. Like the kind of home where love still lived. But inside, that quiet had twisted into something else. Something raw, something waiting to snap. I stood in the kitchen, both hands resting on the cool granite counter. My shoulders were still, squared, calm. But my eyes kept drifting toward the hallway. Toward the stairs. Toward the sounds of drawers opening, water running, the soft hum of Rachel's hairdryer upstairs. She was getting ready for bed. Like nothing had happened. I opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and twisted the cap off. My hand trembled. Just a little. Just enough to notice. I steadied it. I hadn't gone back to the garage. I didn't need to. The image of that ring, still trapped inside that used condom, was burned into my mind so clearly it might as well have been sitting on the kitchen table right then and there. I was still hoping, foolishly, maybe, that I was wrong. That there was another explanation. But that hope was fading fast. I heard her coming down the stairs. When she walked in, Rachel looked normal. Hair tied up, soft gray pajamas, her phone in hand like always. She even smiled, one of those distant, soft little smiles people use when they're trying to smooth things over without saying anything at all. "Hey," she said, brushing her hair behind one ear. "Did you eat? I saw the pan in the sink." "I did," I replied. "Steady. Flat." She leaned against the doorway, one leg crossed casually over the other, trying to look relaxed. "You okay?" I didn't answer her question. I just said, "I went into the back of the SUV today." That stopped her. Rachel didn't move at first. Her face didn't change. But something behind her eyes shifted, just slightly. Like a fault line twitching before an earthquake. "Oh," she said. One tiny word, placed like a mine. "There was a blanket back there. A pillow. Coffee cup that looked like yours." She let out this little laugh, thin, brittle. "Oh yeah. I forgot to clean that out. I was waiting for a friend last week, just sat in the back seat to kill time." I didn't blink. There was something else too. Her smile dropped. I stepped toward her, slowly. My hand reached into my back pocket and came out holding a sealed Ziploc bag. Inside was the ring. My wedding ring. Still wrapped in the rag I'd used like it was radioactive. I held it up, level with her eyes. She froze. Completely. Her eyes locked on the bag like it was a loaded weapon. And in a way it was. "Tell me," I said quietly, "that this wasn't you." Her mouth opened like she was going to say something. Then closed again. A breath came and went. Her hand, still holding the phone, began to shake just a little. She set it on the counter like it had suddenly gotten too heavy. She started, voice cracking. "Jason, I can explain." No, my voice didn't rise. "Don't explain. Just tell me. Was it you?" Her eyes shimmered. And just like that, the tears started, too fast, too dramatic, like they'd been waiting for their cue. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "What I think," I said, "is that I found my ring inside a used condom in the back of our car. So, Rachel, you tell me, how else am I supposed to see that?" She took a step toward me, her hands reaching out, like she could close the distance with empty air. "It was a mistake," she said. "It just happened. I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean for it to go that far." "Didn't mean for what to go that far?" I asked, my voice sharpening. "You took your ring off. You kept it. You brought someone into our car. You—" "I didn't plan it," she cut in, louder now. I swear to you, Jason, I didn't plan for it to happen like that. But you let it happen, I said, voice like ice. You let it happen. You made sure he didn't see the ring, or maybe you wanted him to see it, just not on your finger. She sank into one of the chairs at the kitchen table, arms curling around herself like she could hide inside her own skin. The sobs came harder now. Real, maybe. But that didn't matter anymore. I just felt so alone, she said between gasps. You've been distant. You barely talk to me. You come home tired. I didn't know if you even saw me anymore. So what? I asked. You needed attention, so you slept with someone in the back seat of the car we bought together? She shook her head, crying harder. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did. My voice dropped low. And you made sure I'd find it eventually. You left the ring there, Rachel. That wasn't an accident. That was a choice. I wasn't thinking. Yes, I said, cutting her off for the last time. You were. You thought about when. You thought about where. You took the ring off because you were thinking. You thought the whole thing through. She folded in on herself, completely collapsed in that chair. Broken, or pretending to be. But something inside me was already gone. The part of me that would have cared. The part that still believed in her. I looked at the bag one more time, then set it gently on the table in front of her. You can keep it, I said. She looked up, tears streaking her face, lips trembling. What does that mean? I didn't answer. I just turned and walked away, down the hallway, into the garage. Into silence. Into honesty. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. Some doors close without sound. You just never open them again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring up at the ceiling, the shadows from the blinds cutting across the room in cold gray lines. Rachel stayed downstairs for a while after our conversation, her soft crying drifting up through the floor like a leaking faucet. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Eventually, close to 1 a.m., I heard the creak of the stairs. The bedroom door eased open. She stood there in the dark, just a silhouette. She didn't say a word. Didn't ask to come in. I kept my back turned. Not long after, she left. By morning, she was gone. No note. No text. Just gone. I moved slowly, every step like it had doubled in weight. I went through the motions, showered, shaved, made coffee, but I wasn't really in my body. It was all just muscle memory. I knew what I had to do next. The SUV sat in the driveway, empty now. She'd cleaned it out before disappearing. Like she was trying to erase her tracks. But I didn't need what she removed. I needed what she didn't realize was still there. I started with her tablet. Rachel always used it before bed to read, though it would buzz at all hours with what she claimed were client emergencies. I'd never thought much of it back then. Now I did. I found the tablet in her nightstand drawer. Dead, dusty. I plugged it in, waited. When it lit up, I tried the old password, our dog's name. The one who passed away 2 years ago. It worked. Everything opened. Her email. Her work messenger. And there he was. Derek Pierce. He went by Derek in the messages, but his full name was right there in her contacts. And as I started scrolling, I felt the bottom fall out from under me. It started off innocent enough. Work stuff, scheduling, back and forth about some project. But then it shifted. Slowly. A compliment here. A teasing emoji there. Then, personal. Intimate. Shameless. You looked so good in that skirt today. I couldn't think straight. Next time you should leave the ring off. It suits you better. Still thinking about last Thursday in the back seat. You're full of surprises. My jaw clenched so tight it started to ache. The worst part wasn't just the words. It was how often. Constant. Like this was a second life she was living in between meetings and marriage. I opened their shared photos. That's when it got worse. Rachel, taking a mirror selfie in a hotel bathroom. A picture of 2 wine glasses clinking over a room service tray. Her hand resting on someone's thigh, his suit pants, gray and expensive looking. Another one of her smiling at the camera like she was 16 again and in love for the first time. And there it was. One message that made my stomach twist into something ugly. He's too dull to notice. You deserve to feel alive. And right beneath it, think he'll ever find out? Maybe he should. I sat back in the chair, staring at those words. She'd laughed about me. With him. Like I was a walking joke she used to pay bills and fill space in her life. The man who loved her, shared a home with her, wore her name on his ring finger. He was just the dull one. I backed out of the messages and checked her browser history. More hotel bookings. One of them lined up perfectly with the day she told me she was helping her friend move. The same night she came home late, blaming car trouble. I hadn't even questioned it. I stood, barely aware I'd moved, and grabbed a small flash drive from the garage. One of the old ones I used back in the army, where sometimes knowing the truth could save your life. Or destroy it. I started copying everything: screenshots, messages, photos, hotel receipts, dates, timestamps, every digital footprint. It took hours. But I wasn't doing this out of rage. I was building leverage. By the time the sun dipped below the houses across the street, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the flash drive in my hand, staring at it like it held a weapon. And maybe it did. I looked him up next. Derek Pierce. Senior partner at a mid-size firm downtown. Harvard Law. Polished resume. LinkedIn full of motivational nonsense. Photos of him smiling beside his wife and kids at some charity event. Big white teeth. Perfect haircut. The kind of man who shook your hand while measuring your worth behind the smile. But now, I saw it. All of it. Derek wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator. The kind who dressed like a leader, talked like a friend, and ruined lives while sipping overpriced bourbon and adjusting his tie. He didn't expect someone like me to be careful. Quiet. Calculated. But I was done being quiet. I stood, slid the flash drive into my pocket, and walked to the window. The neighborhood was quiet. I wasn't angry. I was ready. The next morning came cold and sharp, the kind of air that smells like wet grass and gasoline. I stood outside with a mug of coffee that had already gone lukewarm, watching the sunrise slide over rooftops like a fuse had just been lit. The flash drive in my jacket pocket felt heavier than it should have. But I knew what was on it. I'd memorized the files. I'd seen every word, every timestamp, every lie printed in black and white. And now, it was time to use them. This wasn't revenge. It was consequence. I opened my laptop and created a fresh, anonymous email. No name. No clues. Just a quiet envelope for a very loud truth. I typed the recipient. hr@pierceandbradleylaw.com. Subject: Violation of Company Conduct Policy, Legal and Ethical Risk. Attachments: 11 files. Screenshots of Derek and Rachel's explicit conversations, some during office hours. A PDF with hotel invoices billed to the firm's corporate card. And one grainy parking lot photo, Derek in his suit, Rachel climbing out of the car beside him, kissing like they hadn't a care in the world. I didn't write a single sentence of explanation. I let the evidence speak for itself. Then I hit send. But I wasn't done. The next message was for Derek's wife, Anna Pierce. I'd found her email through a school fundraising event her name was tied to. The kind of woman who probably hosted PTA meetings and posed for Christmas card photos in matching flannel. I wrote nothing cruel. No rant. Just a subject line. You deserve to know. Attached were the same files, plus one note. Ask him about September 14th, room 327 at the Stonegate Hotel. That was the night Rachel told me she had a flat tire and didn't get home until 2 a.m. I remember every lie. I clicked send. And then I waited. The fallout didn't come like thunder. It started quiet, just a ripple. 2 days later, while I was tightening a brake caliper in the garage, I got a news alert on my phone. Some legal publication issued a vague press statement. Internal review underway at Pierce and Bradley over alleged ethics violation involving senior partner. Pending disciplinary action. I read it twice. Didn't smile. Not yet. I made a call to a friend, someone who worked in building security at Derek's office. Place is buzzing, he told me. HR pulled him into a closed-door meeting. Dude looked like he'd just been handed his own obituary. Then I smiled. The next morning, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. On the fourth try, I answered. Jason. His voice was careful. Like someone tiptoeing across ice. This is Derek. I don't know who you are or what you think you know, but you've made a mistake. Let's talk. Man to man. Man to man. Like we were equals. I hung up. 3 days later, I saw him. I was parked across the lot from his law office, early morning, just before the place opened. His silver Audi was already there. And so was he, pacing with a phone pressed to his ear, face tight with stress. He looked smaller now. Not physically, but something about him had deflated. I got out and walked toward him. Each step slow. Measured. My boots echoed off the pavement. He looked up. Our eyes met. He didn't speak. Not right away. Just lowered his phone and waited. You're him, he finally said. I didn't reply. He let out this short, bitter laugh. What now? You want to fight? You want to throw punches in a parking lot? No, I said calmly. You're not worth my hands. His mouth twitched, something between a smirk and a grimace. You think this makes you some kind of hero? You couldn't keep your wife happy, so now you're throwing grenades and hoping it makes you feel better. I stepped closer. You used your job to seduce someone who trusted you. You crossed boundaries. You knew she was married, and you didn't care. You didn't make a mistake, Derek. You made a choice. She came to me, he snapped. Don't act like I forced her. I think she was already broken, I said. And you saw that. And instead of backing off, you offered to finish the job. His face twitched. Jaw clenched. I leaned in a little closer, just enough for him to hear every word. I sent everything. To your firm. Your wife. The State Ethics Board. Every message. Every photo. You won't recover from this, Derek. You'll be the warning story whispered in boardrooms for the next decade. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. His eyes said it all. Panic, anger, humiliation. My kids, he muttered. My family. You should have thought about them, I said, before you zipped up your future. We stood there in silence. Just two men in the middle of a quiet war, and only one of us still standing. Then I said, Smile for the camera, Derek. I turned and walked away. He didn't follow. Behind me, his glass office building stood tall and quiet, mirrored windows shining like nothing had ever happened. But something had. The first domino had fallen. And the sound it made. It was beautiful. The rain came the next morning. Not a storm, just a steady mist that smeared across the windows and softened the world into gray. I sat at the kitchen table, a mug of black coffee gone cold in my hands, not because I forgot it, but because I just didn't care. The silence in the house wasn't hollow anymore. It was intentional. Chosen. Rachel never came home. She never called. A week earlier, that would have broken me. No. It barely registered. She was in freefall, and I wasn't the one waiting to catch her. I walked to the kitchen drawer near the fridge and pulled it open. Inside were 6 flash drives, each one color-coded, each one labeled. I picked up the one marked in blue, #3. Public fallout, Rachel Pierce. The email I had drafted was already queued. Set to send Monday morning, just as her firm's weekly staff meeting began. No subject line. No warning. Just an attachment labeled. Urgent, Internal Ethics Concern, C. Bennett. Inside the PDF were screenshots of her conversations with Derek. Most of them sent during office hours. A few were worse. Pictures, video clips. One of her sitting in his car in the office parking garage, wearing her company badge, touching what she shouldn't have been touching. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. The truth was already damning. The second email was harder to write, but more personal. It was sent to her parents. Subject line, You need to hear this from someone who isn't lying to you. Attached was a letter. No venom. No name-calling. Just a timeline, the evidence, and every piece of proof Rachel had hidden from them. I let the silence between my words speak for me. Then came the group message. Friends. People from church. Her old book club. The couples we used to do dinner with. I left the photos out of that one. Just the messages. Just enough to change how they saw her when they looked at her. That's all I wanted. Not drama. Clarity. By Tuesday, the wave had hit. The phone rang while I was in the garage replacing brake pads on a neighbor's car. I ignored it. Then it rang again. And again. Fourth time, I picked it up. Her voice came through like broken glass. Jason, what did you do? I told the truth, I said. I walked into work and people, she gasped like she was drowning. Someone played audio in the break room. A voice message I sent him. Jason, you sent everything. You destroyed me. No, I replied, calm as ever. You destroyed yourself. I just turned on the lights. There was a long pause. My parents won't speak to me. My friends look at me like I'm toxic. Her voice cracked. You made me a pariah. You made yourself one, I said quietly. You laughed about me behind my back. Told Derek I was just good for bills. No fire. Just a placeholder. You typed those words. You hit send. And now the truth's echoing. I was lonely, she whispered. I didn't think. No, I said sharply. You did think. That's the problem. You thought it all the way through. You thought about how to hide it. What to delete. Where to leave the ring. You just didn't think I'd find it. There was silence. And then a softer voice, so fragile it barely held together. Derek's gone. Fired. His wife's divorcing him. His accounts are frozen. His kids won't even look at him. I didn't react. And me? She asked. What about me, Jason? What do I do now? I let the silence hang. Then I answered. You survive. Alone. Like I had to. I ended the call. That night, the rain came harder. I sat out on the front porch, the same beer from earlier still untouched beside me. The trees at the edge of the yard bent in the wind, bowing like they knew something was coming. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, She's parked outside the old church. Just sitting there. Crying. For what it's worth, you did what most wouldn't have had the strength to. I stared at the message for a while. Then I turned the phone face down. 10 days passed. Not a single word from Rachel. I thought she'd try again. Another teary call. Some final plea. But nothing came. The silence stretched between us like a canyon, and I didn't want to build a bridge this time. I moved into the guest room. Not out of spite. Just necessity. The bedroom we once shared felt like a museum now, full of ghost versions of us. I packed her things into boxes. Carefully. Quietly. No screaming. No throwing. Just done. I kept one box for myself. Inside, the wedding ring she discarded like it was nothing. A printed copy of the first message Derek ever sent her. And a photo of us from our 3rd anniversary. She was smiling in that photo. And I remember thinking, back then, that she meant it. It wasn't sentiment. It was record-keeping. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my collar. I had an appointment at the bank. Splitting joint accounts. Changing information. Formalizing what was already finished in my heart. The woman at the bank asked gently, Will you be changing your beneficiary? Yes, I said. Remove her. Emergency contact. I paused, then smiled faintly. Leave it blank. Later that day, I walked into the county courthouse with a folder of paperwork. I handed it over. The woman flipped through it. Divorce filing. And name change, I said. Any reason for the change? She asked. I hesitated. Rachel had taken my last name. And that name, my father's name, had never meant much to me. Just something I wore out of habit. But now, it felt poisoned. I'm done carrying dead weight, I said softly. Excuse me. Just simplifying, I replied. I took my mother's maiden name. Signed it for the first time with a hand that didn't shake. No ring. No borrowed name. Just me. That night, I stood in the mirror again. This time, nothing to adjust. No courtroom waiting. No signature needed. Just me staring back. Tired. Yes. But clear-eyed. Stronger. I wasn't carrying her shame anymore. I wasn't wearing the name that got dragged through headlines and whispers. I was done. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like peace. 3 weeks later, I moved into a cabin 3 hours out of the city. A friend of mine had offered it, no strings. Just a quiet place tucked in the pines with a dock that leaned gently into a still, glassy lake. No signal. No drama. I rebuilt the porch railing. Fixed up the shed. Started each day with coffee and silence. There were no rehearsed conversations in my head anymore. No decoding late-night glances. Just firelight and breath. I heard from a friend of a friend that Rachel had left the firm. Maybe even left the state. Her parents cut ties. Her social circle vanished. Derek's career was ash. He was blacklisted in every legal circle within reach. I didn't follow the rest. I didn't need to. Then one afternoon, while organizing tools, I found a small envelope tucked in the back of a drawer. No return address. Just my name on the front. Inside was a letter. No signature. But I knew the handwriting. Rachel. It read, "I know you won't answer, and maybe you shouldn't. But I needed to say this. You didn't deserve what I did to you. You were kind, steady, loyal, everything I thought I wanted. I don't know why I broke it. Maybe I wanted to feel like someone else for a minute. Maybe I was just scared. But I lost the only man who truly stood by me. I finally see that now. You don't have to forgive me. I just wanted you to know, I see it. All of it." I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. Didn't burn it. Didn't tear it. Just tucked it into a drawer beside an old photo and my dad's rusted pocketknife. Not everything needed to be destroyed. Some things deserved to be remembered, with distance. That evening, I sat by the fire pit I built from river stones. The sky cracked open above me, stars blinking awake one by one. Somewhere down the gravel road, headlights appeared. A truck pulled in. I didn't reach for anything. I just listened. A woman stepped out. Mid-40s. Denim jacket. Forest green sweater. Cautious eyes. She held a box. "You're Jason?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm Lori. My sister knew Rachel. She told me what you did. Said you were the only one who didn't scream. Didn't lie. You just acted." I didn't speak. "She asked me to bring you this," Lori said, holding out the box. "I think she hoped you'd throw it in the lake. But that's your choice." She turned and left without waiting for a response. When her taillights faded, I opened the box. Our wedding album. Every photo. Every promise. Every lie disguised as a smile. I didn't throw it into the lake. I didn't open it either. I just set it beside me on the dock and watched the stars multiply in the sky. Because sometimes peace doesn't arrive with closure. Sometimes it's just the absence of noise. And finally, I'd found mine. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.